Welcome back to another episode of Women Need to Do Better. I am your host, Shelly Kirschman, confidence coach here, and I'm here to help high-performance women, leaders like you, reclaim your power, energy, and time. This podcast is all about empowering you so that you can be confident in every aspect of your life. And that means work, friends, family, but most importantly, how you can show up for yourself. In each episode, I talk about different situations that either I have been in personally or that I have helped others kind of get through. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how we can stop overgiving and start setting stronger boundaries so that we can take better care of ourselves. Because let's face it, we know we cannot pour from an empty cup. So let's stop judging and criticizing ourselves and start focusing on our needs so that way we can thrive without sacrificing our own mental health and well-being. There is a power in being selfish, and it is a good thing. So let's learn how to be selfish together so we can do more for others. So today it's Sunday, October 13th, and we are on episode 7, Master Your Schedule. So last Thursday, we talked about I'm not sorry and how we need to stop apologizing for things that are not our fault or not in our control. And it kind of leads into when we are standing up for ourselves and we're not sorry, so we're not going to be taking on more things, we have better control and we can master our schedule. And so it's all about this episode focusing on time control, boundaries, and flexibility. So let's sit down and let's talk about this. How can we get better control over our time? So also, last week we did a 5-day not sorry challenge. So it's today and tomorrow will be days 4 and 5. So hopefully you guys have been utilizing some tips that I had from the last episode so that way you can stop being sorry and start saying no so we can have what? Control over our schedules. That's right. The better we have control over our time and be intentional, the more we can actually get done. So we as women, we often lose control over our time, and it's not because we're not good planners or we lack good intentions, but it's because we allow others to control our schedules or we just overfill them ourselves. And this is a common problem, but it's a sneaky problem because sometimes we don't even recognize or realize that this is happening until we are overwhelmed, overbooked, and just kind of at our wits' end. And it's usually more common when we pack our schedules so full that there is really not a lot of time for flexibility or to pivot or to take on those things that are outside of our control, but yet end up being our responsibility. And a lot of us, we feel like we need to do it all and say yes to everything, and people are depending on us. And it's hard sometimes to navigate what things to say yes to and what things to say no to. And the reason we have this problem is because we're super women. I mean, let's face it, we can handle so much, and we sometimes overestimate what we're able to accomplish in a day or a week or a month, whatever it is. And that often leads to burnout. And as we end up taking on more and more, even though we're spinning our wheels and we're kind of staying afloat, right? It's kind of like that picture in your mind, somebody juggling and holding all these plates and just, kind of like the Cat in the Hat, where he just, the kids were taking all these things that the Cat in the Hat was just making a mess in their house and catching them. And it's like pretty soon we're holding so many plates, balancing on that ball, and something is going to be that last straw. Something's going to make everything kind of come tumbling down. And that's when we're burnt out. And that's when we lose our temper. And that's when we end up saying things that sometimes we don't mean. And it's just out of frustration. So the problem really isn't a lack of ambition. It's not a lack of, being able to organize. It's actually really boils down to that lack of saying no, those boundaries. And we just continue to allow others to pack our schedules. So that is one of the pitfalls of not saying no. And then what happens when we don't say no? We overcommit. And we have to take a step back and start recognizing that when we say no, it's not to be mean and it's not to be selfish. In fact, when we start saying no, we can do more, because if you think about when you don't feel so overwhelmed, you don't feel so stressed out, how much more energy do you have? How many more things can you accomplish? And we need to make sure that we take care of ourselves so that we can handle all of the responsibilities that we have, so that we have that good energy, so that we can do all the things, because we really want to do all the things. And we need to remind ourselves that just because we say no doesn't mean that we're going to be more likable or that it's even going to be helpful. Because when we have reached our capacity, then other things start slipping through the cracks and we start not taking care of the other things that we had before we took on those extra commitments. And so if you think about the grand scheme of it, the big picture, it's costing us more than just those few things that we're taking on and adding to what we've already got. It's going to cost us our temper, our energy, our health. And it could even cost some tension in relationships, because when we keep saying yes, then it can build resentment too. So there's a couple of tools out there that I like to use to kind of help me refocus sometimes, or just kind of hone in on things that will help me better organize my schedule, or better for me to not overcommit. Because when we have a buffer in our schedule, when we have a little bit of that time between, that is what is so important, to leave space for things that are unexpected, because we know life is going to throw things at us when we are the least ready for it. So when we have spaces in our schedule, it's a lot easier to absorb those unexpected things that pop up. Because if we have our schedule packed so tight, that's going to cause more stress. I mean, think about how relaxed are you when you are on your way to an appointment or on your way to anywhere, and you've given yourself plenty of time. And then you see, as you turn down the road, all those red brake lights. It doesn't feel as stressful as it does when you are on a time crunch. And that's the reality of it. When we don't allow ourselves enough time, when we underestimate how long it's going to take us to do things, that's when the stress starts building up. That's when we start feeling those consequences of our schedules that we just have packed too tight. And I know this for a fact for myself, because I've been working on some growth for myself and doing better about making schedules and not overcommitting, and making sure that I have enough time to do all the things that I need to do. And I'm telling you, it has been a game changer. So when I have to be, if I'm taking, my husband to an appointment, and if I map it out, it's 15 minutes away, but I give us more like 25 minutes, then that cushion, that extra 10 minutes just has given me so much peace, because I'm supposed to leave at a certain time. So I'm starting to get stuff ready, and then we're ready to leave. But then I'm like, oh, shoot, something pops into my head that, oh my gosh, I forgot something. So I have to run back in the house. And it's not a big deal, because I've given myself that cushion. So that couple extra minute or two to run into the house to get something is not a big deal. And then as we leave and we hit every single red light, as he says, really? And I go, well, it's not really every single red light, because we had a green light back there. But it doesn't, it doesn't feel the same. Because when you're looking at the clock and you're like, oh yeah, you know what? This extra red light, it's not going to be a big deal. And it's not. There's a lot less stress. There's a lot less tension. So making sure that you have some priorities in building that extra space of time between things, that's how you can strategically plan your day out and give some leeway for that inevitable traffic or whatever. Maybe you get stopped in line I've gone grocery shopping. My husband's not feeling good. He sits in the car. Oh, honey, I'm just going to run in really quick and go get some stuff. And then we're going to, go to the next, whatever it was. But I give myself a little more time. And then of course I get stopped in the store. I end up just making friends where I go and end up chit chatting with somebody. And I'm like, oh my goodness, spent a little extra time, but it's okay. And you know what? Sometimes we end up running around so much that we forget to enjoy ourselves. Sometimes it's nice to have that little extra conversation. Or, when you get to an appointment, just sit in the car for a few minutes and just kind of like, decompress, kind of think about your day, chit chat a little bit, listen to some music, do something for you just to kind of break up your day so that you're not just so go, go, go. Or if you've got a lot on your plate, maybe it's a good time to just kind of give yourself a little bit of a breather, make sure you're kind of double checking that you've done everything you need to, or you've got everything in line. Whatever it is that you need, everybody's different. And whatever it is that you need for your schedule to make sure that you have some peace throughout your day, that you're not feeling like you're running around with a chicken without a head. These are just those small little things that we sometimes forget to do for ourselves. So that way we can make sure that we remember to eat. That's something that I sometimes end up getting too absorbed in things. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened to all the time? So some boundaries that would be really good for us to implement that will help us have a better schedule is, just kind of prioritizing things, and whether or not you are one of those planners that wants to set your schedule, the night before or for the whole week, whatever it is. If you want to take a look at the Eisenhower decision matrix, that is something that I've used and I find it really helpful when I sometimes have questions on, do I have to do this? Like, is this something that I need to do, or is this something that I can delegate or schedule it later? Or do I even need to do it at all? So the Eisenhower decision matrix has 4 quadrants. So it's about really figuring out what is urgent and what is not urgent, and what is important and what is not important. So if it's not urgent and not important, it's something that you can do without, delete it, avoid it, or minimize it. And for me, what I try to minimize is the scrolling on social media, or just the little things that we do that are time wasters. And then if it's important, but it's not urgent, think about, does this really require me personally, or is this something that I can delegate to somebody else? And sometimes if we really look at what we're doing and what's on our plate, you might find that there are a few things there that really don't need you to be the one to do them. And so that's when we kind of dig deep and say, is this a control issue, or is it something that I like? Why is this still on my plate if this is something that I can let someone else do, or something that I can let go? Then there's the other part that it's important, but it's not really urgent. And that's the prioritizing things. So it's something that maybe, this needs to get done, but today is not the day to do it. I'm going to set that aside for another day so that way I can get some time and some cushion put into my schedule. So that way, if I have time later on today, I'll take it on. But if I don't, it's okay. And then that way it leaves room for the things that are important and urgent, the things that need you and your attention. and it needs to get done today. And typically, I recommend no more than 3 things that are that high urgency, high importance to do every day. Because if you make too many things that high priority that's urgent, then you run into that problem again where, guess what? Your schedule's so jam packed that you're not going to have the ability to have the flexibility. So look at what you've got on your plate and see how you can delegate or delete or put it off. So that way you really are intentional with your time and you take to just the things that are the highest priority, because it feels so good when you get those high priority items off your list and the morning's not even over, because now you've got this energy and now you can do all the other things that you would like to do. And that also comes down to number 2 with the setting boundaries, is saying no without the guilt. Right? Last episode 6, the I'm not sorry, I had 4 kind of quotes that you could use to be able to say no without feeling guilty and without feeling like you have to over-explain. So if someone asks you to do something, you can just say, I'd love to help, but I'm already committed to something else, or my time won't allow that the attention it deserves right now, but it sounds great. I just won't be able to give it the attention it deserves. Or I'm not available. Hey, good luck with that though. Or I'll pass on that, but thank you. There's just many different ways that we say it, because words have power. And the way we say no is going to affect how we feel about it and how we think other people perceive us. So figure out what words will work for you and start practicing them so they feel pretty comfortable when it's time to say them. Because if you're not comfortable saying it to yourself and practicing that, it's going to be a lot harder once you're in the situation you're trying to say no. And then the third thing I wanted to say as an example or something that you can take away for setting boundaries is on that emotional side of letting it go. Don't beat yourself up or feel guilty or worry about disappointing others because you say no. Because here's the thing, the better you get at setting these boundaries, you're setting that standard and people are going to respect you more. They're going to start understanding that when you say no, it's because you are wanting to do the best that you can. And it does leave you room to say yes later. But you want to cultivate those relationships where you are respecting yourself and you're demanding respect from others and you're showing them, I love you, but I can't take that on. And because you are loving yourself enough to start saying no without having the guilt, you're actually going to find that you're going to have a lot more time. You're going to start finding that you have a lot more energy. And it's odd how it happens, but I'm telling you, when you start setting these boundaries, you're going to be able to get way more done in much less time. It's a ripple effect. Having strong boundaries, you're going to teach others that I respect my time, and they're going to really appreciate it when you have the time for them, because it's going to happen. Another tool that I use, though, to help me figure out my time is the Pomodoro tracker. So I'm going to have a link in the comments below for both of those tools, the Eisenhower Decision Matrix and the Pomodoro tracker. Now, the Pomodoro tracker is a really great tool to help you organize how long you spend on whatever task you're doing. And the premise of that is not to do anything, any kind of task for more than 25 minutes without taking a 5-minute break. And I love that, because it's not saying that you can't spend a couple hours doing something, but I know for myself, I have been caught up in doing whatever activity it is, I'll get caught up in my work, and a couple hours go by, or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever. And sometimes the only time I actually get up and stretch and move is because I have to use the bathroom. And that's not healthy for your body. Our bodies are meant to move. And it's also not good for our concentration either, because we are not as productive when we are not taking the breaks that our brain needs. So it's a tool where you do something for 25 minutes, you set a timer, and then for 5 minutes you take a break. And that could be where maybe you're not staring at your computer screen, or maybe you get up and you do a couple laps on the stairs, up and down the stairs or something. Anything, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you could even take a 5-minute break and just kind of rest your eyes and listen to music or something. But it is really healthy and good for your schedule to just make sure that you take breaks. So that's something that I would recommend. Try it. I'd love to hear if you try it and what you think, because I love it. And then the last thing I want to hit on about being able to master your schedule is the way that you can take back your time. The only way to really master your schedule is going to be doing a time audit exercise, where you are actually kind of being aware of what you do from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. And I'm not saying that you have to write everything down, but just kind of pay attention and notice when you are stressed out. Is it because your schedule is too tight? Think about that. And how does it make you feel? And how much more can you get done? And pay attention too to the times when you feel like you've got a lot of time, a lot of extra time. Is it because you've built that in? Is it because you didn't overextend yourself? So once you kind of pay attention, and maybe do that for about a week, just kind of at the end of the day, maybe you can write down like how you spent your day and what you've learned from paying attention. And then that way you can uncover some of the time sucks, right? The things that drain your energy and suck up too much of your time where you're overcommitted. And use that to help you build a more flexible schedule, where maybe you need to block out chunks of time during the day or during the week that just allows you to rest and recalibrate. Maybe say, okay, you know what, on Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm going to make sure that from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I just don't schedule anything, nothing at all. I'm going to make sure that I just have some open time. And you'll find that even though you've scheduled some empty time, I'm sure it will get filled with something, because that's just how we operate, right? And then just do a weekly check-in. It doesn't matter what day of the week, just be consistent. Stick to one specific day of the week that you just kind of check in and look at, are you where you want to be? Like every day, are you able to get your priority list done and completed? How much time does it take you to do these things? How much time every day have you had to maybe take a little break? Because we forget in our days, because we're doing all the things. We are high functioning women, and we go, 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 go until we are at our breaking point. And that's what I'm trying to help you guys change. That's what I've been working on changing. And let me tell you, it is a work in progress. I have some days that I am hitting it awesome. I feel good. I've got all this energy. And there are other days when I just suck. And I'll be the first to tell you, yes, I bombed today. And I thought, I started my day off going really good, but then something happens. And like I said, things will happen in our schedule that are beyond our control. Sometimes they are in our control and we just don't say no, but sometimes they're not. And that's just life. And you go with the flow, you figure out whatever life is going to throw at you. I mean, come on. We have all survived 100% of the days of crap in our past, and we're still here, right? Because we rock. I know you women out there just are bringing it. And you're powerhouses. You are wonderful at what you do. You are amazing. But you forget to tell yourselves how amazing you are. I forget to tell myself sometimes how amazing I am. And I don't want to be a victim of my schedule. I don't want my schedule to be telling me what I can and can't do. So I've learned to say no. I've learned to set stronger boundaries. I've learned to build those cushions of flexibility into my schedule so that way I find that when I have a schedule that has a lot more open time in it, I actually get way more done because I don't feel that pressure of it. So that is how you can do more in less time, because I'm telling you, it is about the energy that you bring. When you have more energy, you can do more things. And that's just how it goes. So that's my tip for you guys for this episode, just making sure that you can try to control your schedule. And again, I'll just recap those 3 boundaries is paying attention to what your schedule looks like, right? And then making a plan for it, and then making sure that you are okay saying no. Don't feel guilty. What would you tell your best friend or your child or your whoever, somebody that's close to you? What would you tell them if they had the really strict schedule that you have? The inflexible, overcommitted, overbooked schedule. You would tell them the same thing, because that ripple effect is going to happen when it starts crashing down because we don't have any extra time in our schedule, and then we're trying to do more, and the energy is just going to wane, and you're not going to have the time, the effort, the space, the patience. You won't have that like you will if you just have a little bit of a cushion built in. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. Don't be a victim of your schedule. Learn to say no. Learn to block out a couple hours, however often you need it. So that way you can have a little bit of you time. And if this resonated with you, I would love for you to subscribe to my podcast here on YouTube. And remember, it's not about doing less. It's about doing what matters most. So next week, actually, I guess it's this week because today's Sunday. I do my episodes every Sunday and every Thursday. And so Thursday's episode coming up, we're going to be talking about how you can manage your stress and overwhelm on the fly, because sometimes things come at us from left field. So how do we navigate that? All right. Well, I will talk to you guys later. I hope you have a wonderful week and stay true to yourself.